Hi, you've reached the Escalantes. Sorry we can answer your call.
Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the stream. My name is Anthony John Agnello, streams producer here at Engadget. Unfortunately, we had yet another interruption in service. We are going to have the folks behind Banner Saga 2 on in just a moment. Unfortunately, our connection dropped right as we were speaking with Steve Escalante of Versus Evil, who is helping get Banner Saga 2 out into the world. We're trying to get him back on the line right now so that we can speak with the folks at Stoic.
Hey there.
Steve, hello! I can't... I swear to God, man, I love the rule, the magic rule that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Yeah, literally, we finally get a very clean connection. We get everybody we need on the line, and then, bam, the internet goes down in one fell swoop.
Sorry about that.
It's no problem at all. Thank you so much for sticking with us. Have the guys from Stoic arrived?
They have not, unfortunately.
That is an absolute bummer. I cannot believe it. But we do.
Well, I think where we left off basically was I don't know if you heard the whole story with Afro or not. But...
No. Unfortunately, the call dropped out, and I couldn't hear you right when you were telling us. You were explaining the process, the sort of fortuitous process of an independent team who were the guys that worked with Namco on the original game, saying we want to get the license, and how you helped facilitate that. So how did that happen?
I mean, that's basically it. I mean, they just said, "Can you help us? You know, we're looking for these things in order to get it done," and we just kind of helped them get it done. So it was just more for me. I guess I didn't expect Versus Evil to kind of go after some licensed IP. You know, typically indies want to make their own games, but here's an indie team saying, "No, this is the game we wanted to make." So we just kind of helped make it happen.
What were sort of the unique challenges of trying to make that happen?
Well, there's a lot of it's just any sort of license deal always comes with challenges. It's not an IP that you're directly controlling. So you've got partners, and we've got Gonzo, who's the original. We've got Okazaki-san, who is the original creator, and he wants to have approval over things as well, as he should. So it's just more of making sure that everybody was on board with making sure that we were going to take care of the brand, that the developer was going to take care of the brand, and Gonzo was interested in making this happen. And the good news was that actually wasn't difficult. Everybody wanted to do it. Everybody was on the same page. So it's just a matter of getting it done, and here we are.
So you are also speaking of things that are unusual for independent developers. It's unusual to hear about one independent developer sharing its technology. A lot of independent developers tend to use game engines and assets like Unity and Unreal and other things that come sort of pre-built. But you mentioned that the Banner Saga engine is now being used by multiple games under the Versus Evil banner. How did that happen?
No, just one.
Just one.
Just one. Skyshine's Bedlam is using it. That was something that they wanted to do. They were all in Austin, and both teams are in Austin, and so they just all know each other. Austin's a really good development community, and one thing led to another, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, we're working with this team that's going to be licensing our tech, and have you guys talk because they're going to need publishing support." And I'm like, "Well, let's talk to them." And they're pretty awesome guys, and one thing led to another, and here we are. So
that's pretty perfect. That is pretty perfect. So I am curious. What can you tell me about Banner Saga 2 in turn? From your
Sure.
sort of promotional perspective. How is it? What is the process of reintroducing a franchise or a brand that sort of had this very rapid buildup of public exposure before it was even released? Banner Saga had this huge momentum on Kickstarter, and then the game finally came out at the beginning of 2014, and it sort of went quiet And then, a few months ago, Banner Saga 2 started to emerge out of the ether. So, walk me through sort of the process of making sure that Banner Saga is still fresh in people's minds, and, you know, how to get people excited for 2.
Well, what the team has done is they've done a really good job in continuing to get the Banner Saga 1 out there. And, I mean, we launched the first game in January on the PC and Mac, and then we rolled out the mobile version. And if you haven't played Banner Saga on mobile, I highly suggest you do, because it's pretty amazing on the tablet. And then you know, we're getting ready to launch the console version for Banner Saga 1, and that's going to, you know, kind of keep engaging people in the first you know, part of the franchise. And of course, the message with Banner Saga 2 is, if you played Banner Saga 1, finish it, because you know, the choices that you make in the Banner Saga 1 are going to get carried over into Banner Saga 2. So it's those things that really kind of continue that story, and they've done such a great job of listening to the fans, listening to the press, hearing that constructive feedback, and the game is richer. They've got a higher production value, if you can believe it, on the cinematics and the animations. There's more of them. They've got more interactive their battle boards are more interactive, and what they've done with combat in terms of different win conditions and things like that. So they've been doing some great stuff to make that rich, because I know people gave them some feedback based off of that, and they've responded in kind. So you're going to see that on the show floor today, where people are going to be able to play and get into the battles and see, you know, what we're offering with destructible elements within the battle boards and storytelling through the battle boards as well, continuing that kind of dialogue where you can actually see things play out. And
you mentioned that there was going to be an increase in quality in the cinematics, which is really like one of, like, you know, it's strange to think that in 2015 the little cinema scenes are the big draw for a game, but God, they're so beautiful in Banner Saga. Could you speak to, you know, how that change came about? Why there is an increase in quality now? How do they change their process in making them?
I mean, it's not really a change in quality. It's just more of like, all right, you know, the first game is 3 guys, and it's still 3 guys. But you know, when you create your first game, you're creating the technology, you're creating the process, you're creating the graphics, you're creating all these different things. So now those pipelines are figured out, right? So when you're going into the second one, it's still going to have the same hand-drawn, rotoscoped look and feel. You know, that beautiful travel scenes, all those stuff is still consistent. But the difference basically is they're not starting from zero. They're starting from where they were, and now they're able to add on top of that. So it's more of a, well, these are things that we can do now to enrich the experience, to add some more, because we don't have to build everything from scratch. We've got it. So now they've got the tech, and they've got a pipeline to allow them to pump that type of content into the game, and then they can make decisions like, how do we treat the battle boards? What are the things that, you know, people kind of gave us some constructive feedback on, and they've reacted very well. I mean, it actually kind of floored the Versus Evil team, because we went through for the E3 kind of walkthrough a couple weeks ago. We saw it, and all of us are going, "Oh my God, this is awesome!" You know. So we were really pretty stoked.
So there are a couple of questions here in the chat. Tanner PR asks, as an Android phone player, do I need to keep the game installed in anticipation of Banner Saga 2? Meaning, you know, do you need Banner Saga 1 still on your phone to play 2? You
know, that is a really interesting question that I do not know the answer to.
Yeah. Sorry, Tanner. That is not something that can be answered.
Great way to start off. That was wonderful. No, I'm sorry. No, that's a really good question, though. I will get back to you guys about that. I don't know.
And Tanner did have another question. Will the choices that you make in Banner Saga 1 on the mobile version carry over into 2? I'm assuming yes, right?
Yes.
And that would probably, you know... So there, Tanner, I think we'll be able to find out in a few minutes when the folks from Stoic actually join us, we can get into a couple more specifics about that. Steve, any sign of those guys at this point?
Yeah, I got a text that they're here. So I'm not sure if that means they're out front of the convention center or.
So this is.
Let me put you on hold for. I'm just gonna put you on mute for 1 second.
Sure, please do. Please do. Everybody, if you are just joining us, welcome to JXE Streams. This is our special E3 2015 stream, and we are talking to developers from the show floor all day. We got to speak with the wonderful Raphael Van Leerop from Hinterland Games just a few minutes ago, who was talking to us about The Long Dark, which is moving beyond its life on Steam, where it's been in early access for the better part of the last year, and is now available on Xbox One.
Okay, hey guys, I've got somebody.
Oh, excellent, Steve!
I've got Drew, the lead writer on Banner Saga 2.
Wonderful! Ladies and gentlemen, we have Drew, the...
So, I'm going to pass my phone over to him.
Perfect.
So treat him nice.
Everybody be very, very kind.
Hey guys.
Hi, Drew, what's going on? This is Anthony from Engadget.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. I am glad that you could join us. I know that E3 has just started for you, but how is your show going?
So far so good. Yeah, no complaints. This is actually my first E3, so I'm sort of walking around in awe.
Is the grand spectacle living up to your expectations?
It's absolutely ridiculous how big, how many people are here. You're walking into a booth and it's bigger than my home.
Right, and like all constructed just for that. It's not like it's going to be a permanent structure. This ridiculous,
right, yeah.
This ridiculous building isn't going to be there forever. Man, Drew, one of my very favorite things to ever do at E3 is, when I have an appointment, I like to walk up to somebody and be like, does it occur to you how weird what we're doing is? Everybody in this building. Has it struck you how strange our decisions are in life? Because we are adults who are meeting inside a building with smaller buildings built inside of that building. And we're all talking about what little cartoon people do on our televisions. That's pretty... It's a little strange.
We're in a small real space within a large real space talking about places that don't actually exist.
That don't exist at all. That don't exist even vaguely. So, Drew, you are the writer of the Banner Saga.
Yes, I am.
Now, there are a lot of misconceptions, I think, about what the writer of a game does. Obviously, with a role-playing game, it's a little bit more concrete. There's a lot of dialogue. There is a lot of expository text and item descriptions and things like that. But tell us about what your job is like working on the Banner Saga.
Wow. So, where do I begin? Okay, so, correct. The in an RPG, it is it's basically, hey, we need someone who can put a story together, make believable characters, entertaining dialogue, and then you start that, and then it soon becomes apparent that that's not your only job. That putting the story into the game is also part of your job. So we're a small team, and it is very much a collaborative effort. Everything from combat board design to feedback on art, listening to the music, voice directing, all of that sort of falls on all of our laps, but especially for the writers, since it's such it's story driven, right? So everything sort of has to come back to that and like, does this make sense? Is this what this character would do? Is this what they sound like? Is this how they move? So yeah, it's it's much more encompassing than I guess the initial put words on paper or in a document and hand it off.
Yeah, ever so slightly involved. How has that process in particular with Banner Saga changed between making Banner Saga 1 and 2? You know, you guys have sort of gone directly from one into the next. There's no break in between. You guys are just diving back in. But how has your process as the writer sort of evolved over, you know, the time from when the game was first conceived and you guys pitched it to the public on Kickstarter to now when you're preparing to release 2?
Well, probably the biggest change is that Alex Thomas was with us on the first game, and he was working a lot on the main storyline. We were working together, fleshing out lore, and I was writing travel quests to sort of open up the world a bit. And now Alex Thomas is no longer with us, and it's all on my laps. So that's the biggest change per se, because now it's no longer, hey, I've got someone to bounce ideas off of. It's, hey, write this, check with John and Arnie, make sure that this is good, make sure we're still on track, and get creative because you don't have your buddy to bounce ideas off of.
Ooh, man, that is tough. You know, I always find the challenge of having to adjust your workflow to be fascinating, because I think that you know, constraints always tend to make art better, you know? And yes. All of a sudden, like, you're now saying, oh, well, I don't have to do all this work, I have to do all that work and this extra work, and that's naturally going to change what you produce. Do you think that you needing to sort of take on all this extra responsibility has, you know, sort of altered the way you conceive of, like, the world of the Banner Saga? Has it made you, you know, has it given you an even deeper connection to all this? What's changed for you?
So I would say that it definitely brings forth that dire mood that we're looking for. Because my workflow.
You're telling me that you now feel like you're on a death march to Ragnarok. It's inevitable. You are marching towards the end of days, and it had to happen.
I've got my Lunchables there on the table, and my supplies are dwindling. Yeah, it's no. You know, I think that so we're fully remote now. When we were working on the first game, I was traveling around in Australia, but so the remote lifestyle hasn't really changed for me much. It has changed for Arnie and John. You know, they're used to sitting in a room together, and if something's not working, talking to each other, and hey, let's get this fixed. Now it's via email or Skype, and so that changes a bit of all of our workflows, just because we're in pseudo constant communication.
Okay.
But as far as the writing goes, I guess not a lot has changed, other than what I mentioned earlier. You know, not having that collaborative sort of back and forth. Of course, Arnie has sort of stepped up and filled in that role where it's he and I sort of pounding out plot progression. But no, it's still it's sort of like, hey, we each go into our own little corners wherever we happen to be at the time, and we try to produce our best work, and then we bring it, and we know that we're going to be iterating on it time and time again. So I think that will always be the case. But no, what you said about you know, having constraints and making better art for it, I couldn't agree more. I think if you're just given sort of free reign to do whatever you want, if you do something, it might not be as great as if someone was like, hey, you've got to do it within these specs. Then your brain really sort of turns on and starts firing on all cylinders.
So tell me a little bit more about the Banner Saga 2. If those of you are watching the stream are wondering, we are not playing 2, we are playing the Banner Saga 1. Because the Banner Saga 2 is not a thing that everybody can get their hands on. It's at the show floor at E3. We can't just
come on by.
We can't just walk up with a PC and just be like, "Can we plug into your machines and stream your game, please?" That would be wonderful. But yeah, so I understand that the battle boards are a little bit more involved this time. How does that work?
Yeah, so that was we listened to the community quite a bit, and one of the things that kept popping up is that people wanted a little bit more out of the combat. They wanted they felt like it dragged in places, and that's obviously something we wanted to address. So we're making we're tying the narrative into the combat. We're looking for every aspect that we can bring the characters to life, even when you're fighting. So many games sort of distance, and it's like, okay, now it's this aspect of the game, and now we're back to the story. But we want it to sort of have this cinematic feel, even when you're in the battle. So we've got we're hand touching all the combat now, so the battle boards make sense with the story. What's going on. One of the first things that you see in the demo is the tutorial, and you're coming upon a small village. And the intro cinematic talks about that and says, here the Dredge are attacking this small village. So the battle board looks like a small village that is under attack, and things are going bad for them, and you step in and you get to save the day. We have destructible barricades on the board, which is new for the Banner Saga 2. Changes the strategy a bit. So all of these things are sort of, what would a small village do? They hastily put together these small barricades and try to defend as best they can. So that needs to be there in the combat.
Drew, something that has been interesting to listen to in the past 24 hours is, obviously, I would say, I'm not going to say it's the most exciting announcement, but I'd say the announcement from E3 that has made people flip the freak out has been Final Fantasy VII being remade. And there are a lot of people who are sitting there saying, like, oh, well, if they're remaking it, I can't possibly imagine them making it with turn-based combat. Oh, they'll never make it with turn-based combat because the people aren't interested in turn-based combat anymore. And your game flies in the face of that. The Banner Saga's success sort of proves that people do have a very real interest in turn-based combat still. And, the fact that you didn't go from finishing 1 to 2 being like, we should probably turn this into an action RPG. You guys didn't do that. You stuck with turn-based combat. So what do you think is appealing about turn-based combat? Why are people still, after all this time, playing video games that, in a lot of ways, obviously they're a little bit more evolved. Like what you just said about the way the battle boards are different now is obviously a change just between your games. But, if you get right down to it, the Banner Saga could have been, it would have run much slower and it wouldn't have been as pretty, but it wouldn't have been that different in, say, 1985 to what it is now. So what's enduring? Right. What's enduring about turn-based combat? Why is that appealing to you?
Yeah, so, I guess it's, we often talk about the game chess, and that's been around for a couple of years at least.
Just a couple of years, not a long time. It's not that popular a game.
Right, and if you haven't played it, give it a try. Turn-based is, it's accessible. You don't have to have 400 actions per minute. It's at your pace, and I think that appeals to a great number of people because, talking to friends and family who get anxious playing games that are dictating their time, moment to moment. Some people just don't like that anxiety while playing. So turn-based, you definitely get to do things, as slow or fast as you want. You have time to think and strategize, and being a strategy RPG, that's helpful. But yeah, I think the beauty of turn-based really comes down to, am I making the best choice? Have I thought of all the options? All right, click go. Let's see what happens. I never saw that coming. So it's just it's a very nice game style that I think will will continue. You know, I don't see it ever ending. People will always come up with something new based on this turn-based system. It just you never have to reinvent the wheel. You can, and people do it. And I'm standing in a massive building of people reinventing the wheel. But yeah, the wheel's good. You can stick with it and make it work.
Drew, so you guys do have the original Banner Saga coming to PlayStation 4, and I would be remiss if I didn't satisfy the ridiculous people that follow our channel and who are obsessed with the PlayStation 4 controller's light bar. So something Mimic and Hoplon42 here in the chat do want to know, what has Stoic done with the light bar on PlayStation 4?
This would be a question for John Watson. Let me see if I can get him on the phone really quick, because he is the master and commander of the PS4 port.
Excellent.
Live stream, they want to know what Banner Saga has done on PS4 with the light bar. They're excited about the light bar.
Hey, this is John Watson.
Hi, John. This is Anthony Agnello from Engadget. Welcome to the show. Our viewers desperately, they don't even want to know about changes to the game or upgrades, but they want to know, what does the light bar do in the Banner Saga on PlayStation 4?
That's a good question. What do you think it should do?
Personally, I think that it should change colors based on how drunk the members of your party get when they get back to camp.
That's a fantastic idea.
Is that?
Yeah, it could be a corollary to sort of the amount of supplies. So if you have high supplies and high morale, you might be able to infer that there's a fair amount of drunkenness going on, and therefore change the color of the light bar to match.
I'm glad that we could offer you guys this little bit of...
I think we have the technology to make that happen.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Jai, is there anything that you would like to say to our viewers about the Banner Saga 2, or anything about the Banner Saga coming to PS Vita and PS4?
Well, during the development of the PS4 and Vita versions of the game, we really put a lot of effort into getting the gamepad controls right. And I'll say, just from testing it and working on it, it feels really good to play the game, play the battles with the controller. It's very natural. I love being able to sit back and play it that way, get away from my keyboard and mouse. And I think people are going to really enjoy playing it that way.
Perfect. John, if you would please give our thanks to Drew. Unfortunately, that brings us to the end of our half hour here with Banner Saga today. Thank you so much for hopping on. Do you want to pass us back to Drew, or
Okay, I'll hand you back to Drew. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, John.
Alrighty, bye.
Hey, guys.
Drew, we are at the end of our half hour for Banner Saga. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. What is the timeline for Banner Saga 2 to come out?
So we are aiming for this winter.
This winter. Winter in 2015 or winter in 2016?
That is a great question. So we're sticking with winter right now.
Winter it is.
It could be a George R.R. Martin type of winter. But we're hoping not.
Yeah, I sincerely hope not too. No, we want like a cozy, like, Bing Crosby winter, man. None of that. None of that murder stuff. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Drew, thank you again for joining us. It was an absolute pleasure talking to you. Have a great show, man.
All right, you too. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Everybody, thank you for joining us for this stretch of the stream. We are going to be taking just a little bit of a break. Twin Stick! You showed up right here. Time to say hello. Hello, Twin Stick. Everybody, we are going to take a little bit of a break. We're going to be back in 30 minutes. We're going to be talking with Platonic Games. Do you know who Platonic Games is? Platonic Games are the dudes that are making Yooka-Laylee. They're an all-star team of former Rare devs. They are making a spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and we're going to be talking to them about their new game in just 30 minutes. Stick around, bookmark the page, follow us. We will be right back.